This is joint work with David Donahoe, who until this Sunday was my PhD advisor. He just graduated. So I'm going to talk about the SVD. This subject needs no introduction, even though, very quickly, we have a data matrix, and we would like to get a part of the SVD, call it the partial SVD. So here is a partial SVD with k equals 1, just one factor, and the problem at hand is efficiently compute a partial SVD with k factors. Why is that interesting? Well, again, in this audience, it needs very little introduction. Suppose that we have a data matrix X, we'll call the partial SVD X hat. This comes up in finding least square solutions, embeddings, spectral clustering, as we've just heard repeatedly, PCA, and so on and so forth. Very ubiquitous problem. And the subject of this talk would be randomized or fast SVD. So as we know, takes about order of KMN flops to find a partial SVD with k factors for an m by n matrix. Last couple of years have seen a very exciting development in that turns out that you can find more or less the same thing with O of log KMN. Here's an example of such algorithm. There are many. The way it works is that you random project the data. So you draw a pseudo-random projection, call it omega, and form a matrix with much fewer columns than you had before. Run the Q, one version says to run the Q decomposition. So Q is actually an approximation for the range of the matrix X at hand. SVD a smaller matrix, and repackage. So this is an approximation to the K partial SVD. I'm not going to present these algorithms today. We're going to do something pretty different. I'd like to refer to the excellent survey paper by Martinson and co-authors. Certainly, this is a work by very many people in this community. I could only list a few of them. By now, the literature is very voluminous. And here's something that we feel is holding back this line of development. Everything hinges on the fact that the matrix at hand is approximately low rank. And as a slogan, all the versions that you'll find, or most of the versions that you'll find of fast K SVD are close to the real best K rank approximation if the next singular value is small. Here's a figure that you'll find in the literature pretty often. You will see that you get the first few right. I'll explain what this figure comes from, mention the data set later in the talk. But this is typical. So the blue curve is the true singular values, and the red curve is the fast singular values, and they diverge. And that is because the matrix at hand is not actually approximately low rank. What can we do? This is the ferret image data set. So the matrix here is 1,000 by 100,000. Every row is an image. And this is a histogram of the true singular values of the matrix. And we find this typical shape where we have probably here is where the action happens. Unfortunately, here we used k equals 100, so we're looking for the partial SVD with k equals 100. The 101th singular value is not so small. And this is typical to most of the data that's out there. And I'd like to call your attention to the fact that actually it's very hard to find an application where even though we feel that the data comes from a low rank process, we should say, or the underlying reality is low rank, the data matrix is not low rank. One way to think about that is that there is a random matrix phenomenon involved. This is a simulation with white noise. This shape is known as the quarter circle bulk. Certainly, the data that I just showed you does not look like white noise, but the phenomenon is pretty similar in the sense that there is a bulk that can be attributed to noise. Where the noise came from depends on the application. And there is a low rank factor that we are interested in. However, it's hopeless to assume that the matrix is approximately low rank. It's not approximately low rank. It was approximately low rank before it was contaminated with noise. So this is the theme of the talk. And I'd like to propose a different point of view about the whole thing of finding fast approximate SVDs, and that is the data that we see is not approximately low rank. It was a low rank piece that's observed in noise. Let's call the data Y, the unknown signal X, and the noise Z. I'll mention in a second that we are going to assume it's white for the purpose of the talk. Actually, what we're trying to do is we're trying to find fast singular values Y and fast singular vectors from the left and from the right, U and V. But we are not hoping that they will recover the signal very well. We are going to apply a function eta, a shrinker, to the fast singular values. And what we are hoping to do is get close to the truth in some norm of your choosing. So this is a different way to think about what we are doing when we are doing fast SVD. So in this talk, we will be interested in finding shrinkers that you can apply to fast singular values in order to get the underlying low rank piece. We are not going to hope that the data is approximately low rank, because it is not. The presence of a bulk that comes from noise makes it hopeless to assume that it is approximately low rank. So I hope that I've made this clear. So find a shrinker to recover X from fast singular values. Here's the assumptions we are going to make and the results I'm going to show you. We'll assume Frobenius loss, white noise of known variance, very restrictive, all of them. The good news is that mostly showing this to you to inflict less pain on you, we can relax each of these in turn. So we can discuss other losses, noise that is not white, and of unknown variance. But the basic ideas are what I'm about to show you. We'll see that in a definite asymptotic sense, there's a way to intelligently choose the dimension k, the dimension on which you random project. This is the heart of the fast SVD, based on the signal strength that you anticipate. And there is a systematic way to threshold if you are just want to keep or kill fast singular values, and also a systematic way to shrink fast singular values, so apply a single function to all of the fast singular values in order to get the underlying low rank piece correctly. That's the subject of the talk. And what I'm going to do in the next couple of minutes is tell you about shrinkage of slow singular values. Basically, it's going to go like this. I'll tell you about shrinkage of slow singular values, and then I'll tell you that actually you already know everything you need to know in order to shrink fast singular values. And then then we'll conclude. So, questions? Let's define a singular value shrinker. It's a single function eta, and every shrinker induces a denoiser, call it x hat of eta, that takes y, takes the SVD, in this case the slow SVD, the original SVD, u, diagonal, and v, and apply eta to each and every one of the diagonal elements, and then wrap up. This is a singular value shrinker. I'd like you to notice that actually this is all over the literature already, because you're all familiar with the habit of finding an elbow in the script plot and truncating there. This is a script plot in a simulation. Finding the elbow in a script plot is just finding the edge of the bulk if the noise is white. And then all you're doing is actually applying a hard threshold to the singular values, and you're not admitting to it, but you're somehow choosing lambda, the hard threshold. So actually, we are seeing singular value shrinkers all over the place already. And now, how should we choose the shrinker? What makes a shrinker good or bad? So unlike shrinkage of scalars, this is a very different flavor. Actually, it turns out that the thing that controls the mean square error of a shrinker is a phenomenon, namely singular value vector rotation. So here is a proxy for the truth, ux vx, it's a rank 1 factor. Here is a proxy for the estimator, uy vy. I'll call your attention to the fact that we are only shrinking singular values, so we are using the data singular vectors, therefore ui and vy. You expand that in Frobenius norm, you find two angles. This is the angle between the left signal and data singular vector. This is the angle between the right signal and data singular vector. These rotations control the mean square error. To give you some intuition about rotation of the phenomenon of rotation, here is a simulation in a rank 1 case in white Gaussian noise. So I'll run this backward and forth a few times. So on the left, you see the spectrum, the singular values. Blue is signal and red is data. So everything that was in 0 became the bulk, and this little guy here moved a bit forward to become the top data singular value. On the right, you see the corresponding left, I believe, singular vector plotted in a plane. And what I'd like you to notice is that the stronger the signal, the smaller the rotation. And this is key. If you have a strong singular, signal singular value, the displacement is small, and then the angle is small. If you have a low signal singular value, the displacement is large and the angle is large. And there is a special point called the Bike-Benarouche phase transition where for square matrices happen, and for improper normalization happens when the signal is exactly at 1, where these guys are perpendicular. This means that if you are taking a rank 1 factor where the data singular value just emerges from the bulk, you are injecting pure noise into the problem because actually the vector that you are using is perpendicular to the truth. This is a phenomenon that's driving everything. And now let me describe a model that we affectionately call the hydrogen atom model for this problem, where this phenomenon is tractable. In most of the other models that you see, there is no good understanding of the rotation. We call the following model the hydrogen atom model because on the one hand, it's capturing a lot of the problem, but on the other hand, is completely analyzable. So it's actually a sequence of problems where yn is xn plus dn over the square root of n. There is a limiting shape factor, so the number of rows and columns grow so that they converge to a shape factor beta. The interesting thing about the model is that you fix R and you fix signal non-zero singular values x1 to xr, and they do not move as the problem grows. As you increase the problem size, you only add zeros, so that all these matrices in the sequence are rank R. And finally, we are only going to worry about the limiting loss. So we are going to take the limit of the Frobenius loss between your estimator and the signal, and we'll call it the AMSE. So this is a derivative of Ian Johnston's spiked model for covariance estimation. It's present in Patrick Perry's Stanford PhD thesis from 2009. You'll find it in a work by Amit Zinger, Andrew Nobel and student, and recently our work. In this model, all the zero singular values form a bulk that is known as a quarter circle bulk. This is the formula for the square case, and these are other shapes. And I've promised you that it's actually, this model is analyzable. So recent result by Benesh and Rao tell us that there is a mapping signal singular values to data singular values, and signal singular values to the angle between the ith, this is the ith left signal and the ith left data singular vector. Okay? And then I should also mention that there is a cutoff point where if the signal is less than this cutoff point, it's lost in the bulk. Yi is always a fixed number here at the bulk edge if the signal is too weak. It has to be stronger than some quantity for you to see it beyond the bulk. And then let's not worry about the formulas, and let's focus on the following fact. There is a cutoff point x star. Every signal singular value smaller than x star goes to the bulk edge y star. If it's above this point, there is a mapping telling you exactly where it's going in the limit. And there are two other mappings, we call them C and C tilde, that tell you the angle between the original signal singular vector and the data singular vector corresponding to the ith singular value of the signal. And then if the signal is too weak, this angle is 0. If the signal is strong enough for you to see it, then you have this map. And let's not worry about the formula for y, c, and c tilde. I just told you that we know these analytically, but let's not worry about that. Now, here is where the fun begins. If you know x star, y star, y, c, and c tilde, you know everything about the problem. You know the optimal point to truncate, and you know the optimal shape of the threshold. So let me explain what that means. It's a surprising fact, but turns out that there is a threshold, hard threshold, we call it lambda star, such that if you threshold the singular values at lambda star, so this is an estimator that keeps all the data singular values above lambda star and kills them below lambda star, keep or kill. This is what we do when we truncate the SVD. You are always better regardless of what nature chose. Nature chose R and X1 through XR. You're always doing better or equal. There is a way to find lambda star. It's the solution to this master equation. Y of x is a function that we know. X is just x. C and C tilde of x are functions that we know. You solve this equation and you go to the y scale, you get lambda star. This is what is known as in statistics as a unique admissible hard threshold. For example, when beta is 1, so we have a matrix that's square in the limit, this number is 4 over square root of 3. Okay? Questions? And I'll stress that this is a non-obvious phenomenon in the sense that there is a single threshold that dominates all other thresholds regardless of signal configuration. It's a very actionable result. You can just give it to practitioners to use. As long, and again, this is for known variance, actually a specific scaling of the noise, and white noise. Let's keep that. And then this is telling us something interesting. 4 over square root of 3 is 2.3 something. Again, this is the square case. The bulk edge is 2. If you're going to use your eye to find the scree plot elbow, the point where a signal, the data singular values emerge from the bulk, you're going to truncate at 2. I just told you, don't truncate at 2. Truncate a little bit above 2. This is the loss as a function of x, the signal singular values that nature chose. There is a region here where you see the signal, the data singular value. You see it with your eyes because it emerged from the bulk, but you still shouldn't include this rank 1 factor. To say the same thing differently, this is the location 2. This is the bulk edge 2. It corresponds to a signal singular value 1. This interval here, between, that corresponds to an interval between 2 and 4 over square root of 3, is an area where you see the singular value, but you shouldn't include it. Another master equation, this time for a shrinker. Suppose you are more sophisticated than just keeping or killing singular value, and you're prepared to apply a single function to each one of them. This is something with a lot of history in signal processing. Then here is the formula for the optimal shrinker. It depends only on these quantities y, c, and c tilde. For example, for beta equals 1, this is the formula for the optimal shrinker. And again, a non-obvious phenomenon. This controls all other shrinkers in asymptotic mean square error. In AMSE, you're not going to do any better. Just to make the point, this is the formula in green. That's the formula I just showed you. Red here is soft thresholding with parameter 2. Blue is hard thresholding with parameter 2. And this guy is in between. It's manifestly non-convex. And actually, an optimal shrinker for this problem cannot be convex because it has to interpolate 0 and identity. So I'll just mention that and we can take that offline. And now, finally, the subject of the talk. So basically, my message is the following. These quantities x star, y star, y, c, and c tilde, while they are not available to us in analytical form for fast singular values, exist. And they can be numerically retrieved. And from there, everything I told you works like clockwork. So I just mentioned that we are not hopeful to find these quantities y, c, and c tilde analytically. There are dozens of algorithms or flavors of this algorithm for fast singular values, and they revolve mostly around this projection matrix omega. Some proposals are to use a concatenation or multiplication of random sign, FFT, and random choice of columns. Some suggestions involve Givens rotations to make this random projection. Some suggestions are Givens rotations and then FFT and then Givens rotation and then FFT and so on. The chances are it's not going to be possible to retrieve these functions that I mentioned, y, c, and c analytically, but they still can be numerically computed or tabulated. They depend on the aspect ratio of the matrix at hand. They depend on your choice of k. K is key. K is the dimension on which you random project. Okay? And then they depend on the way that you concoct omega the projection. So once we have these mappings, I'm just going to use the results I've mentioned because they are valid. So here are a few implications. First of all, some singular values get lost in the random projection. Now, I'm appealing to your intuition and I'm waving my hands. There is noise present. You are random projecting. By random projecting, you are inflating the noise. Some singular values will fall below this critical cutoff and will be lost forever. Okay? If you numerically tabulate x star, you can see exactly the value as function of k and of omega, where you are going to lose a singular value forever because of this the behavior of the noise. It's a non-linear behavior. And then if you'd like to be able to keep singular values that are smaller, you will please increase k. So random project on a larger dimension. And I'm giving you a recipe to exactly decide on k. The thing that controls k in the literature I've seen is the assumed rank of the underlying. This is not what I'm telling you. The thing that controls k is the magnitude of the assumed signal of the underlying. The smaller the signal, the larger k that you are going to use. The second implication is that we have an optimal point to truncate. So once you have these functions, solve numerically this master equation, and this is giving you lambda star. Any fast singular value smaller than lambda star, even if it's above the critical point, namely it is visible to you, should be set to 0. And why is that? The optimal threshold is designed to minimize mean square error. If you're including a rank 1 factor with data singular or fast singular value smaller than this threshold, you are using fast singular vectors that are rotated very badly from the truth. You're injecting a lot of mean square error into your reconstruction of the underlying. So this is telling you exactly when you should not use a fast singular value. And finally, if you are willing to shrink fast singular values, this is how you're going to do it. you're going to use this formula. Again, everything is available numerically, tabulated. So this is, in this formula, y and v are fast singular vectors. Sorry, u and v are fast singular vectors, y is fast singular value. And eta star is this guy. And this is giving you a reconstruction of the unknown matrix X that is asymptotically optimal. Hang on. No, thanks. In the sense that that is asymptotically optimal in the sense that you will not do better with the same choice of singular vectors and values over all choices of shrinkage eta. So let me wrap up with a toy example. And this is just to stimulate your visual faculties, if nothing else. Many of the existing literature use the FARA database. That's a database made available by the US government for face recognition. It has the grayscale database has pictures, grayscale images. So we are forming a matrix that's 1300 by something like 100,000. And we'd like to form what is known as eigenfaces. Now in this problem, the noise is actually the individual phase features. Eigenfaces are trying to find communalities between everyone, trying to form the common faces. And when you so-called denoise, you are removing the communalities and you are left with individual features. This is the source of the noise. Obviously, it's not white noise. Still, let's try to see what we get by using this method. First of all, for the aspect ratio of the ferret matrix, and suppose we use a fast, the simple fast SVD algorithm I've showed you with k equals 100, so one don't project the 100,000 dimensions or the 100 dimensions. This is a plot of the numerically prepared optimal shrinker. This has been tailored to the problem at hand. This is a histogram of the true singular values of the problem. So this low rank piece here is common faces, the top eigenfaces, and all the action is actually here. This is not noise by some measurement device. These are people's faces. And let's see what we get. So you turn the crank and you get that the optimal, the noise level here is very high. So implicitly, I'm not showing you how I estimated the noise level. You can read the paper. The optimal threshold is 2.23, 10 to the 4. And the point at which you lose the signal is 1.17. So these are these two lines here. This is the script plot corresponding to the histogram. So this is plotting the fast singular values in decreasing order. Everything here is good. Everything here is in the bulk in the sense that you expect these fast singular vectors to be perpendicular to the truth, complete rubbish. And here, this is a region where the algorithm, or this method is advising you not to use the face. So just to show something and let you ponder whether this makes sense or not, probably not too much. This is the third eigenface. This is capturing a lot of commonality in the faces. This is an eigenface that's slightly above what we call the optimal threshold. And again, this is an optimal threshold for white noise, which is that's not the case here. So this is supposed to be usable in the sense that it's supposed to capture a lot of variation in faces. And these two are below the optimal threshold. And I'm just going to leave it here for a couple of seconds. This method thinks that these two faces are not worth your while in terms of denoising. You should not keep them in a low rank approximation. Maybe they contain too many individual features and not enough common features. So I'll wrap up. This is a systematic approach to recovering low rank metrics. This may have been a little fast, but this is a completely defined recipe that you can use off the shelf. The dimensionality reduction from n to k discards some of the singular values and hopelessly mutilates some of the singular vectors. And the optimal threshold is telling you when to stop using singular, fast singular values because the corresponding fast singular vectors are just too noisy. And finally, as I've mentioned, everything works for nuclear norm loss, operator norm loss, and so on, non-white noise and unknown noise level, but it's a little more painful to describe. So I'll leave it at that. Some thanks, and these are the references, and thank you for your time.